Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zentropy Aviation. Today we have a look at a preview, pre-release version of a Boeing 247D by Wing42. This aircraft is currently in development. As a matter of fact, there are new builds that I am testing every day. Features are being added, last minute issues are being worked out, documentation is being completed, all ready for release. So please keep in mind that everything that you see today is subject to change because this is not a finished product. The work is still ongoing prior to release, but this will give you a good idea what this is, what it has to offer, and what it feels like to fly this aircraft. There are a couple of features that it offers that are first for Microsoft Flight Simulator, including the implementation of radio navigation as it was happening in the 1930s before the VORs came into play. These subjects, in terms of their depth, are not within the scope of this video. We are going to rather take a more general look at the aircraft, and if you are interested later on, please let me know in the comments below. If you would like to see a tutorial on radio navigation at some point, I would be happy to do one for you. This is a United Airlines livery. There are several liveries that are shipped with the aircraft. They are all great looking, but this particular one is one of my favorites. It's a beautifully done plane. Today we're doing a very short hop from Ceiba, Puerto Rico, to Vieques, Puerto Rico, just across the puddle. It is a flight that most of you who know me will be familiar with. That is how I usually test aircraft. It's a short enough flight to kind of get up in the air and test things out. Without further ado, let's jump onto the flight deck and take a look around here. As you see, the cabin is beautifully modeled. Everything is rendered nicely. I have the windows currently open so that we could hear the beautiful engines come to life. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and take a look at the passenger cabin of the aircraft. This is a very 1930s cabin. Things such as these spars in the middle of the aisle were certainly inconveniences, but these are the kinds of things that you had to deal with in the commercial aircraft in the 1930s. You could have a seat at any of these here, and the flight attendant was sitting here. Actually, that's the flight attendant seat that you could operate. Additionally, we have a restroom. Let's actually walk this way and open the door. Everything is rendered beautifully. There's even an operational soap dispenser, right? So let's go ahead and close the door now. Okay. This is one of these things that I'm not used to with the lock cockpit interaction. I am used to the Legacy, so this is kind of all new to me, but the Legacy interaction with the mouse is currently being worked on in the aircraft, and it's not quite ready. So for the ease of operation, I am using the lock mode right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at the EFB. which is the clipboard here. The first page will familiarize you with some of the performance numbers for various phases: takeoff, climb, cruise, fuel consumption, and some of the procedures. Page to familiarize yourself with that, because this aircraft rewards you for flying it correctly. The next page is payload, weight, and balance. Let's go ahead and fill up our fuel tanks. We're going to just have it fully fueled. These are the oil tanks here. We are going to assign a few passengers here, as well as some luggage in the back and in the front. Now we can say make it so, prepare the aircraft, and the virtual flight crew is going to get started on making all of these things happen. So you will see doors opening, you will see, as you see, the nose compartment with the luggage cart here. You'll actually see the luggage being loaded onto the aircraft one by one, and as things are loaded, that compartment is going to close. All of these things definitely add to the immersion of operating the aircraft, and these tiny little details were thought of and implemented, which I appreciate greatly. It makes it that much more fun to work with this. So let's hop back on board as the crew is continuing the load. I'll show you a couple of other pages here. You have simulation settings, where you have options for engine malfunction and realistic engine start, electrical failures, things like that, and a couple of other options for maintenance as well. And on this page, this is a couple of different ways to get the engine up and running. In these days, you had an external crew that was assisting in the engine start. It was a fairly complicated procedure using a flywheel that needs to be wound up, and you have an option to get all of that done yourself if you so choose. But for the sake of realism and brevity, we're going to rely on the crew to get these things started for us. But let's go ahead and get the aircraft ready for startup and departure. I'm going to toggle this yoke off and set the parking brake to on. Over here, I'm going to turn on the battery first, as well as the radio power. The smoking and belts signs, we're going to turn the magnetos to both of these. And let's turn on the nav lights, the engine instrumentation, and navigational instrumentation. That should be sufficient for us to get things started. We're going to go ahead and set the propellers to fully forward. Advance them all the way forward. These are friction locks, by the way. The yellow ones that you see here. This is mixture. So put that forward as well. Alright. Fuel selectors. We are going to have this one on both and this one on the left. Next thing we're going to do is prime the engine. This is left and right. In addition to that, we have a wobble pump here, and what we're going to be watching are these fuel gauges here, so that we are going to raise the fuel pressure that will enable us to get the aircraft started. They need to be operated fairly continuously because that fuel pressure gets low. You can see the gauge is rising. I'm going to get the left flywheel wound up while we're operating the wobble pump. As you see, the crew set up the ladder. And are starting to crank it. Going to crack the throttle a little bit and mesh flywheel. Here we go. Now let's go ahead and fuel a little bit more, so we can get the other flywheel going. Go. And start. Excellent. Turn this to the initial position here. Put away our clipboard. Let's go ahead and turn on the courtesy lights, which are essentially taxi lights. And we don't need a pitot heat because we're in equatorial climate right now. We are ready to go. So let's go ahead and taxi out. This is naturally a tail dragger, so visibility is going to be somewhat limited for the taxi purposes over the nose wheel. We're going to very carefully disengage the parking brake and commence taxiing. Slowly, carefully. If you will take a look at the manifold pressure gauge, which is the one in the center with the different color zones. There's a red zone and a white zone. The manifold pressure is actually fairly easy to spot where you need to be for the different phases of flight. What is happening here? Oh, bloody hell. Somebody's been drinking. See, kids? Don't do that. Anyhow, carrying on. Just when I thought I've seen it all. Alright. So, what I was talking about before the wild thing back there. This gauge, where the arrow is right on the edge between the white zone and the red zone, that's going to be your required manifold pressure for takeoff. In the middle of the white zone is your manifold pressure for climb. And at the very beginning of the white zone is your manifold pressure for the cruise phase. So as you see, it's very easy to make sure that you're not overstressing the engine and not firewalling that throttle, and operating the aircraft gently to prevent any kind of failures, nasty things, and so that you don't end up spinning upside down in your aircraft like that fine lady or gentleman back there was doing. Not quite sure what kind of drugs they have consumed, but they were not good. Alright, we have clear on the left, clear on the right. Let's get out onto the runway, and we are ready for departure. Landing lights are not suggested to be operated except for takeoff and landing explicitly, because they eat up quite a bit of battery power. So we're going to go ahead and turn off the courtesy lights here, and turn on the landing lights. And we are ready for takeoff. Disengage parking brake. Smoothly advance the throttle forward so that the manifold pressure ends up right on the edge of the white and red zones. The nose is coming down. We're doing a little bit of a rudder dance to keep things centerline. And rotate. We are going to very gently fly right off. Positive rate. Gear up. We're going to go ahead and reduce the manifold pressure now to the middle of the white zone. Climb. Since this is a very short flight, I am not going to worry about mixture, because we're not going to go above 3,000 feet. And I'm also not going to worry about the propeller levers, because, well, we land with them fully forward, and we are going to be landing very soon, because we are going to Vieques, which is right there. That's the island. You can see Mount Pirata rising in a distance on the right hand side. That is the highest elevation point on the island. We are climbing, and I am going to go ahead and trim the aircraft a little bit so that I don't have to apply any force to my control column. And here we go. We are trimmed for a very gentle climb. Not going to climb too much further. We're at 1,500 feet now. Really no sense going above 2,000, so we're going to start trimming it down and reducing the manifold pressure a little bit to here. There is no autopilot. This is going to be hand flown all the way, which is not an issue because it is a pleasure to hand fly. It trims very nicely. As you see, I am just a minimal amount of correction that I have just applied now. reducing the trim a little bit, trimming it down. We're at 2,000 feet, leveling off. We are going to keep the landing lights on because we're about to land. Otherwise, this would be about when I would turn them off. And we're going to be making our approach towards runway 9. Nice and short and simple. This gives you an idea of what this is and how this flies. Very sturdy, very stable, doesn't require a lot of correction. Very well behaved aircraft. Pleasure to hand fly. And at some point, if you master the radio navigation that it simulates, it's going to be a very rewarding experience. Challenging but rewarding. So here we are. And you can see the mosquito pier Rampiolas on the left hand side. Our runway 9 is going to be right along the coast here. So we're starting to make a gradual turn. We're going to go ahead and reduce power. For descent. Alright. Let's start coming in. Reduce power a little bit more. There's runway 9. Gear down. And that's about the coming in a little bit steep. That is okay. That allows me to get there on minimal power. No flaps. And let's bring her down. Set her down gently, like so. And let's taxi to terminal, where I'm going to show you night lighting. You do have some illumination of the instruments if you decide to fly this beauty at night. I personally wouldn't recommend it, simply because that is a much more dangerous affair. There are so many visual cues that are required for flying this bird that I don't know if I would ever want to undertake a night flight in this. Nevertheless, that option exists. We're going to go ahead and park it here by the main terminal, which is where in real life most of these aircraft just kind of pull up right here. Set parking brake, and let's take a look at the night lighting. We're going to go ahead and turn on some things here. Let's activate cabin, dome, compass, so heat, and these are the dials with the lights. Let's adjust the time of day. Hey, look at that. So we have some lighting in the passenger cabin here. Will provide have lights that you're able to turn on here so that you can read a book, right? And on the flight deck we have beautiful illumination of all the instruments, including glow-in-the-dark indicators on the gauges. So that being said, let's go ahead and do shutdown. Bring the mixture down. Master ignition off. Magnetos both to off. Turn off the night illumination. We're going to do fuel cutoff. Radio to off. Let's also position all of these switches in the off position too. Battery off. There you have it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, if you'd like to receive more previews and reviews of various products and tutorials, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Your support would be greatly appreciated that way. And I will see you all around. Thank you for flying in the Boeing 247 by Wing42. Thank you. Good night.